Good morning, everyone. Today is the 28th of October, getting near the end of the month, very close to the end of the month, and very close to the election. I posted up an update yesterday evening talking about what I thought was likely to happen in the SPY and the NASDAQ after a fairly strong rally yesterday afternoon. I still believe the markets have a chance to move up into this, call it, this is the SPX 500. 5900, 5920, maybe 5940 area up in this area here. And I believe that we're going to be looking at a moderate melt up, maybe 1.5, 2.5% over the next 3 to 4 days before we get up into this resistance area around late Tuesday or early Wednesday. Gives us a pretty good rotation into topping that's going to likely roll downward here into and prior to the election. My estimate on a downward move on the SPX and or SPY would be about 4.5 to 5.5, maybe 6.5% down into this lower area here. And let me make sure that I am representing that cleanly. Yeah, it's about a 4% move right down there. So remember, we're looking at, and there's my other line. We're looking at a pretty decent little rotation right before and right after the election. I think that the high flying tech sector symbols that are in the tech sector, maybe semiconductors, I think those could move maybe 8, 10, 12%, maybe a bit more, maybe double or maybe 2.5 times this move in the SPY. So, for example, the Nasdaq, if I've got a 3.5 to 5.5% target on the S&P, that would put us at maybe a 7.5 to maybe 12%, 13% downside target on the Nasdaq, and that's really kind of where I need you to be aware is that this move here in the SPX of about 3.5, 4.5% could be 7.5 to 15.5% on the Nasdaq. Let's go take a look at the data here in my SPY cycle patterns. So we're moving into a consolidation period here. This is my SPY chart, hourly. Shrink it all back down. I haven't updated any of this data yet. We're going to stick with this for the next week or so. We're rolling into a period of, just topping. So I think we have a chance of moving up, like I said, 1.5 to 2.5% up in this area. We're at 581 and change right now, almost 582. So we're going to open right up in this area. I think we could get up into the 590, 588, 592 area before we roll down into this topping pattern. So the SPY cycle patterns are showing us we've got a top resistance, 1028 SPY cycle patterns. Yeah, top resistance in carryover mode. Then we get a gap defender. We look like we're going to have our gap today. So you can see how we get this gapping set up. So the top resistance would look something like this coming up and rolling into a top. Then we get our gap defender, which could be something like this. Then, and of course, I have to move these back into shape. We'll move this over here, move this over here, and then we end up with a gap up higher in trend mode, and the gap up higher in trend mode could be a move. I may have drawn this a little off, but a gap up higher in trend mode could be our last push, and that's going to be our Wednesday timeline. So really, this is rolling kind of through a through kind of a volatile rolling pattern to the upside. I mean, the best way I can explain this to you is that up, forming a basic top today, a resistance area, down, trying to defend this gap tomorrow, likely rolling into a bit of a rally into the end of the day. And then the following day, Wednesday, a gap up higher, which could be the end of the move. Remember, Wednesday is highlighted right over here as typically the end of the move. I even highlighted these bars to try to show you that this is where literally we have to be very cautious of the market. We need to be aware that when we get into this area, we are topping. That's Tuesday, late the 29th, and Wednesday, the 30th. That's where we've got to try to get out of our positions right over in this area where this, I'll draw it again, right over in this area. We have to get out of our positions. We have to prepare for that volatility, and we have to now shift gears. We cannot be holding long positions very aggressively into the 31st or the 1st. We will get crushed, I believe, if we do. So we do not want to hold these positions. Okay, QQQ, same kind of a setup. We're gapping a bit higher today. We're looking at a topping pattern. You can see over here, really potentially topping out on the QQQs a little earlier. And we may get a bit of a follow through here, but I think we're going to, we're seeing upward movement, 498, up 0.62. We could see a bit of a meander for 2 or 3 days. But, if you look at these cycle patterns, the way I've drawn them from what my expectations are, I think that the NASDAQ and the Qs are going to start to get a little crushed. So I think we're probably going to set a top pattern, roll, and then roll downward at this point into the election. I don't expect much from the Qs. I don't expect a whole lot of follow through. I expect really a consolidation rolling pattern here, breaking down into a really solid breakdown. Let me mark this as a dark red color. I think we're going to just kind of consolidate in this, let's call it 494 to 502 area on the Qs based on my patterns and roll. I think the Qs are going to start to aggressively roll, and the Nasdaq probably. So in other words, by Tuesday, right in this area, make sure. Yep, I'm on the right area. This bar here could be the last fairly neutral bar that we get in the rally phase before we start to really break down back over here. And I think that's going to be a fairly clean rolling kind of a top pattern here. So we get Monday, we get Tuesday, and then we start to break down on Wednesday. And that'll probably be the end of the move for the SPY as well. Okay, gold. Gold is struggling last I saw last night. Yep, still struggling to kind of move out of this cycle trend. We do have a counter trend pattern today. So we come back over here, over here, and over here. We do have a counter trend momentum rally, which means that we're probably going to be stalling out from this momentum phase. You can see that we are flagging into this formation. I think that we're going to just continue to flag out like this, finally get a big breakout up into the 2800s potentially, and then stall back out over in this area. I don't believe we have really much opportunity after the 31st and rolling downward. Okay, so we're flagging. We're going to continue to flag. We've got about another 12 hours of flagging. I think that this momentum cycle is going to be basically a sideways consolidation channel, followed by some kind of a breakout move tomorrow, followed by a topping pattern on the 31st, followed by some potential gapping rollover, and then a stalling kind of correction pattern on Friday. So again, be aware that gold is looking like it's rolling very efficiently through this cycle. Maybe going to get kind of a come over here, kind of a big breakup, rolling into resistance, and then moving down into the election. Okay. Silver's about the same thing, guys. Silver's going to follow gold's lead. If silver starts to really break out, we're going to start to see gold kind of lagging, which would be rather interesting. You can see that we're flagging down. You can see that we've got this again, this flagging formation here. And we've got this same kind of I'll draw it across here, downward flag setting up. I mean, I can just go to here. So we're looking at kind of an odd reversal shape here. If we look at this A, B, C, D, or A, B, C, D, E, we're getting closer to the volatility. But then we've got to be very cautious of the fact that, we have been in a fairly consolidated downtrend. We have flagged, we have broken down, we have broken down into consolidation. There's a very good chance that we're going to get some sort of a break up move like we have right here before we roll into that kind of topping pattern right here, rolling across this red line. So, but we have roughly until today at 1900 for this apex to play out. So we're going to be trapped in this sideways apexing it with silver until very late today, which may break out to the upside. I think it's a strong possibility we're going to break out to the upside and try to rally higher. And then lastly, we'll go over to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is close to following my patterns. So we had this breakdown as we moved into consolidation, right? Rallied up, hit, rolled into consolidation. I drew the consolidation down, rolled back up to the top. Now we've had a very sharp decline here, which is kind of like this move here. And now we're rolling back up into this area here. Would be looking for Bitcoin to roll into a topping formation, roll down, and then right around early November begin to attempt to break away from this flag. We are in the midst of a very solid flagging and consolidation pattern, which I've been going over for many days now. I don't expect Bitcoin to try to break away from this. If you look at this, guys, we have this sideways flagging that I drew, and then I said, well, we could end up in a flagging scenario like this. We haven't seen it yet. If we roll over here, up in this area and roll back down into this flag, we're going to be moving into this apexing type of formation here right around just before the election. And then we're going to get a lot of volatility through here and then either try to break up to a new ultimate high or down to a low. So at this point, we're playing through the big, broad consolidation pattern of this flag, of this sideways uh, consolidation, which is the excess phase peak pattern. My belief is that we're going to rally out of this. I really do believe that we're going to move to the upside after the election. I think I mentioned that even last night in my video. I think we're going to see a big relief rally come out of this. And I think it's going to be very positive for the markets going into the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025. Okay, lastly, I wanted to highlight this. I showed this yesterday in my video. This is my TT scanner hot list. Shows you what sectors are hot. Pause this video if you want right here. Take a look at these sectors. Take a look at the ranking here and the shift which is taking place, meaning how the ranking has either moved up or moved down. This is the current ranking. This is what happened last week, shifting up or down. This is the current algo signal, how many weeks we've been in the signal, brand new signal here on jets, whether or not we've hit targets in purple or not. And then we have the thrusting pattern, thrusting indicator, the profit factor, and the win rate. So now I want you to be aware that these sectors that are up in this top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ranking over here, the top roughly third, a little over 1/3 of these are sectors that have been performing recently, right before the election, or for many, many, many weeks, 30, 40, 20, 30, 40 weeks, they've been performing very strong. I think these are the sectors that are really going to, carry through the election. And I want you to be aware of what you need to look at. You got a good 20, 22 sectors here to be looking at as very key targets for post-election rally phase, and or buying on a dip throughout the election. I just want you to be aware that as of last Friday, this was my ranking. These are the main sectors that I follow with my TT scanner software. You can see this is done on a weekly basis. And what I'm trying to show you here is these are sectors I think you need to pay attention to through the election and post-election. Pretty much everything from right here, QTech up, maybe even XAR, but from QTech up right here, I think this is probably, that's the twos all the way up. I think these are going to be very solid movers post-election. Okay. I'm going to go back here to the SPY and work on my cup of coffee this morning, and we will talk to you guys soon. Okay, guys, talk to you later. Get some.